And we're live. Hello, everybody. We're here at Joorney's webinar, SUV Progress Reports. What constitutes progress and how can Joorney help? We're going to wait for a couple of minutes, as we usually do, to let some people in. We now have 50 people here. We have around 180 people registered. So we're going to probably have around 100 people joining. So we're very excited about today, a very interesting topic. Let's see where are people joining us from. Hi, Mohammed. Ahmed. Thank you for joining, everybody. Vancouver. Good morning, Ronnie. Ottawa. Wonderful. Mexico. Kitchener, Ontario. Cranbrook, British Columbia. South Africa, David, thank you for joining. So as you all know, or most of you know, my name is Marianela Mansour. I'm a partner and global director of sales and marketing here at Joorney Business Plans. As I was mentioning today, we're going to talk about the SUV progress reports, what constitutes progress, and how can Joorney help. So we're very excited. We have two wonderful guests that I'm going to be introducing in a little bit. Richmond Hill, Toronto, Mississauga. Wonderful. Let's wait one more minute and then we'll get started. Many familiar names joining today. A lot of people interested in the startup visa, in what's happening with progress reports. So we're really excited. Hi, Paul. Manish Paul. Okay, we have almost 70 people logged in. So let's get started. So a warm welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining Joorney in this webinar. Today's presentation, as I was mentioning, is SUV progress reports. What constitutes progress and how can Joorney help? As I was mentioning, my name is Marianela Mansour. I'm Director of Sales and Marketing here at Joorney Business Plans. As many of you know, we are specialized doing business plans for many different immigration programs. The startup visa is one of them. And today we're going to talk about how Joorney is also taking this a little bit further with other services regarding progress for startups, for the startup visa. So today we're going to talk about this subject from many different perspectives, including what progress reports are for, what progress is, also why IRCC is asking for the progress reports, what do they usually include or what are they asking for, and what should be included when responding to them, among other topics. Joining me today for this webinar, and let me just put them a little bit on the spot. Okay, so joining me today, we have two special guests, both from our team here at Joorney. Matt Wolf leads our advisory division on product and strategy. He has extensive experience in investment banking and has played a role in many transactions for startups of every kind, enabling him to understand the benchmarks of progress that mark a successful startup and demonstrate progress towards goals at different stages in their growth. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Also joining us today is Dorothea Agnew, Senior Project Manager at Joorney. Her experience overseeing the development of thousands of business plans, pitch decks, and other documents makes her uniquely qualified to know what successful progress reports look like and the essential elements this important document must include.
Hi,
Welcome,
everyone.
Dorothea.
Hi.
Okay, so let's get started. Let me go back to our presentation. So let's get started today. I just wanted to remind everybody that we're going to have a webinar where I'm going to be asking our guests some questions, and at the end, we're going to have time for a Q&A session. So if you go to the right-hand side on the bottom, you'll find a tab that says questions. So please add your questions there, and I'll try to get to all of them at the end, okay? Okay, so let's get started. Before we get started officially, I just want to remind everybody about a disclaimer that we have. As you know, Joorney Business Plans Canada is not a law firm nor an immigration consulting firm. So we do not provide legal advice. We leave that to our partners, and we stay neutral throughout the process. So just wanted to add that little note. Okay. So let's get started. These are the topics that we are going to be covering. We're going to do a little bit of a brief recap about what the startup visa entails. We're going to talk about the startup life cycle beyond the startup visa initially, and then within the startup visa. We're going to talk about IRCC requirements, and then we're going to go through how can Joorney help. And we're going to talk about the services that Joorney will be we are already offering regarding progress reports and additional services. Okay. So let's talk about the startup visa. So if we talk about the visa itself, as many of you know, the startup visa has three main things that should be covered. One is that it needs to be an innovative idea. It needs to be a startup that is scalable, and it needs to be something that generates jobs, okay? So these projects must also impact the Canadian economy for it to be considered as part of the visa program itself and what immigration is looking for. So recently, as many of you know, IRCC has been coming back to applicants before the PR approval to understand what they have done to show progress. And as you know, also for the startup visa, the startup doesn't need to be successful. It needs to show that steps are being made in order to try to be successful, but success is not a requirement for the startup visa. So that's an important thing that I wanted to mention. So let's start to discuss the startup's life cycle. Matt, you've worked with countless startups in the past and independently from the immigration component of the startup visa in Canada. Let's talk a little bit high level about what the life cycle of a startup looks like, especially in the initial stages.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Marianella. Well, let's start at the first point, market research. Obviously, a critical first step in understanding the target audience, any competition, if there's really a need for this product or service. So many startups fail because they say that they built the product for an audience of one, the founder. You definitely don't want to fall into that trap. Business plan development. Once you've solidified your market research, the next step is to formulate a business around this idea and firmly identify the why behind the business. What's the company's mission and vision? And also, how's the company going to make money? It's important to have a well thought out and comprehensive business plan. This will help you guide your startup as well as demonstrate to investors the path to success. Team assembly, no doubt, there are many solo entrepreneurs that have made it. However, an easier path would be to assemble a team comprised of the diverse skill sets needed to make a startup a success. Having a well-tuned team that's aligned at the goal is good for the startup and attractive for investors. Product development. If financially feasible, a startup should always develop a working prototype of the product or service. It should then be tested, iterated for improvement to eventually reach a minimum viable product or MVP in startup parlance status. Of course, product development isn't one and done. It's a continuous process that continues in perpetuity and also evolves as your target audience evolves. Launch. Okay, now you're at launch. Very exciting. At launch, startups need to make sure they are following the business plan regarding their go-to-market strategy. A successful launch, especially one with some evidence of user traction, will be highly attractive to investors as it gives a perception of de-risking the opportunity. Funding document prep. Once you've launched, you're in a good position to prepare to raise capital. But before you go ask 100 angel investors for $1 million, you need to have your funding critical documents in place. This includes your financial model, your business plan, and your pitch deck, and they must all be ready for prime time to face investors. Lastly, funding. Funding critical documents are in place? Check. The next step is to create your list of investors that invest in startups like yours and begin your approach.
Thank you, Matt. And I love that Matt is here because Matt, he's the leader of our advisory division, and Matt has worked with startups way before he got involved in the startup visa specifically for immigration. So I like that that there's a broad point of view that applies for any startup. I mean, not necessarily the ones who are applying for immigration purposes, but any startup. So Matt, so considering the startup visa timeline and understanding now that each case is different, let's discuss what would be the ideal roadmap for a startup to show progress. Let's say a technology startup in the ideation stages that wants to be established in Canada.
Sure. Well, as this slide clearly illustrates here, those different sections and the progress of those sections, there are different steps that one can undertake to validate those specific points. So for example, market research, you're trying to validate the market. Is there a market for my product or service? What's the strategy to approach that particular audience? And we need to be doing market research in order to kind of formulate the overall market research and strategy to attack that particular audience. Business plan development. So as I mentioned before, you've got an idea, whatever. Now you've got to formulate a business around it. How are you going to make money? So thinking of the business plan, thinking of the business, the venture, and all the different aspects is important to have in the business plan. And of course, the pitch deck is the abbreviated version of that. And then fast forward, launch, marketing plan, list of potential clients and suppliers, website development. All of these are important when you go to market and you're actually starting to talk to customers and service providers and potential partners and things like that. Of course, website development, you need to have a website to make sure that everybody knows you exist. Also very important. Funding document prep, progress report itself, financial model, financial valuation might be included in there as well. All of these things show progress. And funding, at Joorney, we have an investor outreach program. And then of course, any outreach that you're doing to investors is certainly going to demonstrate progress.
Thank you, Matt. And basically, a lot of the people who know Joorney, they know us from our business plans, right? But as I was mentioning before, today's webinar is to let you know that we want to take things a little bit further. So the services that Matt is mentioning, we'll dive into some of them further along in the webinar and let you know what those activities entail, what those documents and research entails. To show you also options for those startup applicants to get support for the things that will show progress. So if we look at the timeline of the startup visa progress itself and the startup visa process, let's say, Joorney, we prepare the business plan, sometimes with a pitch deck. Some people also hire us for the market research at the initial stage. They later apply towards the designated organization, who then provides a letter of support. And then after that, there's an application for the work permit for the PR, and then there's a PR approval. But between those applications and the approval itself, there's a moment, and as many of you know, there's a huge backlog happening right now that used to be less than a year, and now it has been extended to more than 3 years. So right now, what's happening is that IRCC is going back to the applicants and saying, okay, this time has passed. You got your letter of support. What have you done with your startup to show that you have been progressing in your venture? What can you show that constitutes progress? So that's something that's really important to consider, and that's where we identified the need. So now, and we're going to show you a little bit more of that ahead, but now we want to support our immigration applicants, our immigration consultants, our immigration lawyers to provide more tools to their applicants so that they can be able to show that progress, and also prepare those progress reports that may come when IRCC requests them. But also, if you are prepared, you don't have to necessarily run. But if you are planned enough and you have enough time in advance and you plan that roadmap, you can do it even before they are requesting it. So whenever they do, you'll just show what you have progressed at that moment. Okay, so let's talk about IRCC requirements. And this is a question that I'm going to ask Dorothea. So from what we've discussed with our partners and for those who we've supported, what do we know about what IRCC is expecting as progress? What kind of documentation does IRCC ask for?
Mm-hmm. So for what we've seen is they're asking for documents that would really explain that the applicant has done something in the meantime to show that the business is progressing, that there is something happening. So what would be the documents that would show something like this? For example, one of the main things that a startup needs to do in order to get successful is to have a team. So being able to provide a document such as like the employment contract, for example, that could be a proof that you actually hired someone for your startup and you initiated this process of assembling a team. The other part of the evidence could be a lease agreement, for example. Let's say you're a startup. You will definitely need some kind of a space to operate from. You're going to need a space to meet with the clients, or even the space where you will be dedicated to developing the MVP. So obviously you would need some kind of space. And if you have a lease agreement, that really proves that you already initiated the process. There could be also some additional proof, for example, agreements with potential clients. You could have market research done. That's also a very good and important part of it. And you can have some kind of proof of getting the investment from individuals who believe in the idea. And this would also serve as the ultimate proof that the idea is good if the investors are lining up to give you money. So basically, the progress report, as we see it, is just the pinnacle of all of that. It's sort of like a report that serves as a summary of all of the efforts that you have done in the meantime. I think you're muted. Yeah.
Thank you, Dora. Yes, I just wanted to provide credit. This is a slide that we took from our previous webinar that we did with Mary Justani. Also, she has a lot of experience on these projects, and these are the things that she has also seen that IRCC is asking for and expecting for.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Of course, when IRCC asks for a progress, they don't necessarily say that they need a specific format of a progress report. So it's important to show that there is a document that is specifically mentioning some of these topics that they're asking for and showing it in a way that the officer can understand what they're seeing and see what the startup has been working on.
Yes.
I wanted to also mention that there have been statistics that we saw in our previous webinar where there have been declines in approval in early 2023, and many of these have been impacted by the lack of progress. We've also discussed with some designated organizations who seem to be struggling with the startups that have received the letter of support. They have been provided with guidance as to what they need to do, but nothing has been done. So our intention with the services that we provide is to give a hand to those applicants and make sure they have the tools and the proper support so that we can do it together. We can help them accomplish what they need to do while they're waiting for the PR approval.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and talk about how Joorney can help. So I'm going to show our price list Here is what we call the Startup Visa Progress Menu services. So as you can see, there's a lot of detail in this price list. We're going to go into some of these services further along, but I'm going to show you what this entails. So basically, you have our regular startup visa packages, which include business plan, pitch deck, financial model. Most of these or some of these are done before the application with the designated organization, but a lot of these are also updated further along. Or in some cases, the financial model is done at a later stage and not necessarily at the beginning with the application of the designated organization. Then we see the Startup Visa Progress Report. And I mean, you can see the price for that. As every product that we offer, our prices are very competitive. And we also include services regarding market validation, such as client surveys, expert interviews, competitive analysis, the target markets, TAM, SAM, SOM. I mean, Dorothea and Matt will talk a little bit more about this part. Market strategy, market research and feasibility, which again, sometimes we do for some of our clients before they apply. And in some cases, it can also be a way to show progress after the letter of support. We also develop go-to-market strategies on the financial side, as Matt was mentioning, and it's his specialty. He'll talk about that as well. We have the financial model, the valuation. Within marketing, we have marketing plans. We have the capabilities of preparing lists of potential clients, also lists of potential suppliers, depending on the business model. And we also prepare documents that help you show your startup and your business towards your clients. So we have websites that have e-commerce, we have corporate presentations, and more. And within funding, we have investor business plans, pitch decks, and we also have a video pitch deck. So as you see, this is our price list. And depending on how many products are purchased from Joorney, you're going to have a specific discount. So if you have more than 3 products, you'll have 10% discount. If you have more than 5 products, you'll have 20% discount. And if you have more than 10 products, then you'll have 30% discount. And then there are some things, and this is very important, that are not included, that Joorney does not do. We do not do anything regarding incorporation or legal progress. We don't do anything regarding software or prototype development milestones. We are not involved in IP and intellectual property progress. Marketing implementation tactics, we don't do. So for example, when I was mentioning the list of potential clients or suppliers, we provide that, but we do not do the outreach. At least not as of now. We may in the future. And as I mentioned, we do not include contacting those clients, suppliers, or partners. And we don't do direct networking. So as I always like to say, we are very clear about what we do include and also what we do not include. So now I want to ask Matt specifically, because he's in charge of this part, what is the starting point to know what a startup may need from the list of SUV progress menu?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Marianella. So the first step, really, like anybody could probably imagine, is the discovery call. The discovery call is critically important because it's all about listening, and it allows us to have a constructive conversation where we will ask a bunch of questions so that we can get familiar with the founder, what they're looking to build, and where they are in the entire startup process. This also provides founders an opportunity to ask questions about us and to determine if we can be a good fit to bring them value. Of course, every startup is unique and is at different stages of their development. Therefore, our advice is bespoke and based on a variety of factors, which are all unique to them. If all goes well, we'll then put together a proposal with the recommended scope of services, along with pricing, delivery timings for the founder to review for approval to move forward.
Thank you, Matt. So now, as many of you are probably thinking, okay, so what does that progress report look like? So let's share it and let's ask Dorothea to run us through it. 1 second.
Yes, and I
So
just
Dora,
yeah.
what does Joorney
Sorry.
usually include in the progress report?
Mm-hmm. So what we usually include is a couple of things. As you may already have a feeling about it, there are a couple of things that the startup needs to do. So the first thing is they need to hire a team. So obviously that would be one section of it. The second one would be to establish your channels to see where are you with the sales and marketing. Are you going to target everyone or just a certain group? I wouldn't advise everyone. So you need to pick and choose who you will target. And then depending on that, you also need to choose the channels that you would use to do it. Then also you need to think about a business establishment overall, like setting up an account, setting up your website, setting up the like registering the company, then investing the money into the account and starting to allocate the funds towards different things that you need to accomplish. And then of course the most important part is to see where you are in the stages of developing the product or the service that you're developing. So for example, we deal with a lot of clients who are just in the idea stage, but then we also work with the clients who are more advanced than that and have already done some research and define the prototype, they're maybe even finally testing it and they're close to being ready to entering the market. So it's important to establish where you are at the spectrum and what needs to be done, what are the milestones to be done in the future. Of course, in the progress report, you're not going to show that you already done everything over the past 1 or 2 years. You will just show that you are on a good track of accomplishing everything you promised in your business plan, and it will just show that you have an actual plan that you're sticking to. So I believe that the progress report is more of like I said, a summary of all of the efforts you've done so far, and it shows the milestones reached so far and the milestones to be reached. As you can see, Marianella is showing the progress report, and it's quite detailed, and you will see that there are those progress bars on top of the slide where you can see where the company is at the point when the progress report is done. So for example, here in the sales and marketing activities, it's shown that the company has accomplished about 40% of what they were supposed to accomplish in order to have like a full sales and marketing activities plan, done and completely developed. So here, for example, this particular client that we worked with has already had a certain number of customers on their customer list. So they were ready to reach out to them once they have a solution that's completely developed. And they also tested the solution, at least the first prototype that they had, on 100 users. So that was their progress. I think that would be mostly it. When it comes to the marketing progress, even little things can count. So for example, if you visited an event and met with some people from the industry, spoke to them, you can include the pictures from those events and kind of show a proof that you actually attended them and got to meet with people who are helping you advance your business. Yeah, and here is the hiring plan. And one thing that I forgot to mention earlier is a tricky thing that we saw, where the immigration is actually requesting the progress reports 7 days ahead. So, for example, you receive an email and they're asking you to submit a progress report in just 7 days. So, obviously, if you haven't been doing anything in the meantime, it would be very difficult for you to just assemble a progress report and do all of those steps at that time. So that's why we advise that it's great to be prepared.
Yes, that's a very good point, Dora. A lot of people come to us when they already have the request for the progress report. And yes, we can prepare a progress report in less than 7 days. But if there has been or there hasn't been enough progress, it's difficult and challenging to show progress or do those activities within that time frame. We actually know some companies that do. So if you would like that, we can definitely help, but that's not our intention specifically here. Our intention is to encourage people to prepare before, so that when that request comes, you're ready because you've set your roadmap, you've set your progress reports, and you've updated them throughout time. So that's what we're looking to encourage specifically with not only the progress report, but also the Startup Visa progress menu. I'm going to flip ahead here so that we can talk a little bit about the process that Joorney takes to prepare the progress report. Dora, if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So basically, with everything that we do at Joorney, the first step is always to do a discovery call or even like send you a questionnaire where you would be able to inform us about the activities that were done so far. And this will really help us because a progress report looks much better if we are able to receive all of the information that's pertinent to be included in it. So the first step would be that discovery call. And then the second part would be for us to get the questionnaire that's filled out and maybe ask some additional questions based on our reviews. So for example, we review the questionnaire and we see that there are some things that are maybe not clear, or we believe that there are some questions that we would be able to pose to a client that would lead them to provide additional information that would be very relevant. So once we are very clear on what needs to be done, we have all of the information, then we start the writing process. And this is very important because you don't want to start the writing process without having all of the information in it, just because it increases the number of revisions and it's just a waste of time for the client. So that's why we practice having all of the information that we need, and then we start writing it. And once we have the first draft, this draft is fully complete, and we send it to the client to revise. Once the client revises it, there might be some small things to change. There might be some feedback from the client. We're really open to hearing something like this. So we can receive the comments and apply the changes at a very fast time. For example, like maybe 1 or 2 business days usually. And we are able to deliver the final version to the client, and the client can submit that to the IRCC.
Thank you, Dora. And how many days is it taking us to prepare a Startup Visa progress report, regular timeline?
Mm-hmm. So regular timeline would be about 7 to 10 business days.
Okay, perfect. And we also have rush services, right? That we can make it sooner if they're needing it.
Exactly. Like Marinella
Dora,
said.
and what specific types of...
I was gonna just reiterate that
I'm a little bit delayed.
Yeah, we can do it in just a couple of days. If you need the rush service, this is not a problem as long as there was progress in the meantime and there's something to be put in the report.
For sure. Dorothea, and what types of documents do we usually require in order for us to prepare the SUV progress report?
Mm-hmm. So I would typically ask the client to provide some of the documents that we already mentioned. So it would be the contracts of employment if they hired anyone. Then it would be a lease agreement, maybe a link to their website. I would ask for the pictures from the events that they attended. If they prepared the market research, we can maybe get a copy of that and see where are they with the research so far. I would ask them if they have a particular list set up already, if they have registered a patent. For example, if they're developing something that's super proprietary and maybe they consulted an attorney regarding the intellectual rights. I would also ask for the progress when it comes to their product or service. Has it been developed? Are there any steps to be made in the future to further develop it? What's the kind of stage of it at this point? So that would be the most of it. nothing out of the ordinary.
Thank you, Dorothea. It gets tough when companies have not made progress, right? Because as of now, we've been talking about the progress report itself, but the progress report is basically an introduction and a summary for the officer to know all of the things that they've done that constitute progress. And of course, there are going to be a lot of attachments to that progress report. So it's not that only having the progress report and saying these things is enough. There will be attachments to this where there needs to be evidence of that progress being made. So it's important. And this, I think, designated organizations are the ones struggling the most, because they can guide their applicants when they've provided a letter of support. But I mean, they're not going to be able to make the progress for the startup. Okay, so that's something that is important to consider. I mean, it needs to come from the applicants themselves. That's the idea. And yes, we're here to support them, and there are other companies that are also providing support, but it's not like things are going to be done in magic to show progress that does not exist. The idea is that progress exists for things to move forward within their venture. So I want to apologize because my image and my voice may be delayed, a slight technical issue, but I hope it's not too strong. Okay, so we've been discussing a lot about the progress report itself, and now let's talk about those services that actually help startups show the progress so they can have updates to share with IRCC when that moment comes about what they're doing in their initial stages. So
Yes.
Let's talk about the market validation items. Let's talk about client surveys and expert interviews and how Joorney can support these startups with market validation using these services, Dora.
Yes. Thank you, Marinella. Let's start from the beginning now. Just because we started with the status report, which is ultimately the final step, but let's start from the beginning and see what are the steps that you need to make in order to get to that stage when you're creating a process report. So, for example, you're an entrepreneur and you have a great idea. For example, you want to do, a service helping people buy dogs. So I just made that up. What's the next step for you? So first of all, you have an idea, but you want to know if anyone is actually interested in that idea. That's the first step. And the second step is, for example, would they even pay for something like this? Do they expect it to be free? Then also, is it feasible? Can you actually do this? Can you create this platform for buying dogs or not? So the first step that we see as a very good first step would be a client survey and then also an interview. And I will explain the difference between the two. The survey is when you have many people replying to short questions. So you want to get an overall sentiment from those potential clients. For example, let's say you interview 100 people who are interested in buying a dog. And the interview would last so long. For example, you could ask them a lot of questions. It would be personal, it would be one-on-one, and you would ask them like all sorts of open questions, open-ended questions where they can elaborate. And this would take maybe like 30 or 45 minutes or even an hour. That would be an interview. Whereas the survey would be asking them just to kind of click, for example, do you like dogs? Do you want to purchase them online? Yes, no. Are you interested in buying this service? Yes, no. So it would sort of be like getting their general interest, their general sentiment towards the idea. So when we want to validate the idea, I would suggest starting with a survey. If you want to get like the idea of the overall customer base. If you want to get something like very, very deep insights, you would go with an interview. An interview would have questions that would help you understand what are the obstacles that the customer sees. If, for example, they don't want to use your service, why is it that they don't want to use the service? It's not just a short question like yes or no. It's an opportunity for them to elaborate. So we have done both of these. We have done a lot of surveys and also a lot of interviews. And these are usually very successful in establishing whether the idea is good or not, or if it needs some tweaking. So, for example, you might get a result out of the interviews that would specifically say that they also want to be able to buy cats and not just dogs. So here, this is something like an insight that would help you refine your idea. Whereas with the survey, it would be very quick. You would see, for example, 100 results, and out of that, 70 people say that they would pay less than $10 for this. That would really be a signal for you. Hey, I should charge less for this. I was thinking about charging 20, but I see that the potential clients that I'm seeing in the survey, they really don't want to pay more than 10. So that's sort of our process.
Thank you, Dorothea. And there's a lot that happens during this stage, right? Because I mean,
Yes.
startups can't be too married to their idea, because sometimes they need to pivot. So if they need to pivot on the price or on the platform, on the original idea, on who their user is going to be, who the decision maker is going to be, if they were planning on charging 10, now they may have considered to charge 5, but they're going to add advertising on the platform. So
Yes.
all those things come from really asking clients and also experts in the industry, in order to get those insights that can help you drive and pivot your startup towards success, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Dorothea, let's talk a little bit about market research. Specifically, why is it important to analyze the competition when demonstrating progress for an applicant startup?
Yes, yes. That's a good question, actually. So I once had a conversation with some people who were from designated organizations, and they were like, we just hate it when the client says, I don't have any competition. That's just a signal that you haven't done much of the research, because believing that there's actually really no one doing the same thing or even a similar thing in the market is very dangerous. So that's why it's important to do the competition analysis very thoroughly. It doesn't have to be just the direct competitors. So that will be people who are doing exactly the same thing as you. It could also be the indirect competitors. And those are the competitors that do something very similar, or they fulfill the same need as you, but in a completely different way. So, for example, in my fictional example with the platform for selling dogs, there might not be another platform that does this, but there might be individual people who are selling dogs. So they are not your exact direct competitors, but they're definitely your indirect competitors. Because if I, as a person who wants to buy a dog, if I have that need, I can fulfill it in two ways. I can either go to your platform, or I can go and talk to those people who already do that, who are already selling the dogs. So basically, doing your research when it comes to competition is about determining who is your competition, obviously, so you know who to compete. But then also it's about determining what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. What is it that you can attack that they lack? So, for example, let's say they are serving a market, but they're focusing on a certain target group that wouldn't necessarily be your target group. Maybe you're considering older customers, whereas they are considering younger ones. So that could be a gap that you could potentially exploit. So once you analyze the competitors, you will see a couple of things about them. First of all, what's their product like? or service, of course. So you want to know how do you compare to them? Do you have the similar characteristics of the product, or do you have something unique or completely different from them? So that's one thing. You also want to know what channels are they using. So you don't want to be necessarily competing in the same channels. You might want to do something different. You might want to see what's the gap. Maybe there's a market that they're not covering. And then also you want to see their pricing. You want to see if maybe they have higher prices or lower prices, or they have the same prices. It really depends on your strategy to enter the market. So a good competition analysis can help you define the product. It can help you define the price. It can also help you define the channels to attack, and then the marketing strategy, obviously. So I would say everything should start from a good competitive advantages analysis and good competitive analysis in general.
Thank you, Dorothea. Yes, that's very interesting because for the startup visa specifically, you get a lot of innovative ideas. So people pride themselves saying that they don't have competition, but that's definitely something that we usually challenge. And even though we do talk about competition in our business plans at an earlier stage, taking a deep dive into more details on the competition and doing market research in a very thorough and comprehensive way, you can find answers that would then guide you to your go-to-market strategy, to determining your competitive advantages, your target markets that like Dorothea, you were mentioning, that maybe pose a gap and give you an opportunity to address a certain market specifically. So great. We've talked about the progress report. We've talked about the progress report. We've talked about market validation, including client surveys, expert interviews. We've talked about the market research, competitive analysis. So now let's talk about financial services. And here we have a question for Matt. So what are the benefits of a financial model for a startup showing progress?
Yeah, thanks, Marianella. Look, the financial model is the mathematical interpretation of the business going into the future. It really defines what the business is financially, numerically. It helps plan. It helps define the amount of capital that you're looking to raise. All of these things, all of these numbers, things, the entire topic of numbers is critically important when you're showing progress. And if I may, I will share quickly just a sample financial model. And while I do this, maybe some people in the chat room, I mean, who doesn't love a great financial model, right? I love them, but some people hate them. If you like Excel, put there in the chat room that you love it. If you hate it, you could do that too. By all means, let's have a lively debate. Let's see here. Now,
and if you hate it, that's what we're here for, to help you out. You're not alone.
Absolutely. Everybody does financial models in a different way. We're very proud of the way that we do them. The less tabs, the better. And you can see here that you've got assumptions. Our assumptions are in this neon nifty green color. Those are hard numbers that you define as assumptions that drive the calculations. And so all these assumptions are on the left side. All of these calculations are on the right side. 60 columns, 5 years. And it essentially follows the three financial statements: income statement down to the balance sheet, defining the amount of capital that you're looking to raise, the cash flow statement. We like to include a little dashboard here to make life a little bit easier for viewers and founders. And then these other blue tabs are just annualized versions of what's on the monthly assumptions tab. So the annualized income statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement, the sources and uses of cash, valuation, early stage valuation, we also do, and the cap table, the evolution of shareholding through different fundraising rounds, seed, Series A, and Series beyond. So this is how we do financial modeling. Again, this might look like a lot of mumbo jumbo. We are experts at doing this, and we do, where we bring a lot of value is working with people who really aren't numbers people. That's where we come into play and kind of elevate their financial acumen. It's like a crash course in finance and accounting to a level that makes it show them that to investors, even though they may not have necessarily been there and done it before, they kind of look like they know that they have enough knowledge to be dangerous enough to be fluent in finance and how the financial modeling and the projections were put together. And that's critically important for the success of a startup, but also obviously to demonstrate progress.
Thank you, Matt. I mean, this can get complex, right? In some cases, some clients may have their own financial modeling. In some cases, they may need help, and that's where we come in. But there's a lot you can do with a financial model. I mean, you can iterate some of the assumptions to see what's going to happen in different scenarios. You can also determine what the valuation for the company is, which can also help you in the funding stage. So many things that come from the financial model. And then again, I mean, some startups may have applicants that can do their own, and that's fine. If that's the case, we are happy to evaluate what they have and then show that the creation of that financial model is part of the progress. If they don't have it, then we're here to help build it. And that's what the team is for, and the team is amazing. Led by Matt and Dorothea, they do an amazing job, not only on gathering all the information, doing the proper research to have the proper assumptions, and then being able to explain what the insight is after building the model itself. So it's really, I mean, it's helping you, supporting you with the document, but not only giving it to you, but rather explaining to you what is the advantage of building it and the results and insights that come from it. So yeah, the team does an amazing job. Okay, let's talk a little bit about marketing. We're running a little bit out of time, so we need to speed it up a bit. But let's talk about what we usually would include in a marketing plan when we create one for a startup. And also what marketing activities are good to show in the report so we can prove the startup's progress.
I mean, this is such a big topic. Yeah, it's such a big topic, and as Marinelle said, we should maybe quicken it up a bit. I did touch upon this a bit in my previous replies. So the first thing is, if you do a very good market research, you will know who your target client is and who your buyer persona is. And this is sort of like establishing, do you want to target like young people, maybe like 45 plus or 20 to 30, or you have a certain age range that you want to target. Then you also want to determine which channels are the best to reach those people. So for example, if you're trying to reach someone older, you might want to do Facebook instead of Instagram, as Facebook is more famous for people who are older. So it's about choosing your target client. And the second part is choosing your channel and building that infrastructure, like creating your profiles on those different social media platforms, creating content, posting it, getting followers. So that's really important to build that infrastructure for you to be able to convey your message to a large audience. And then, of course, there's also a matter of choosing a different content type for different types of people. Like, for example, if you want to target someone very young, they're known for having a very low attention span. So you might want to do something sort of like a video, something very short, just to get their interest in it. So that's a content type that you would specifically choose for that target group. Then you can also do events. As you know, a lot of startups are actually B2B, which basically means that they're targeting businesses and not the end customers, individuals. And in that case, you want to meet the right people. You want to maybe potentially meet the clients that could help you build your business and discuss what is it that they need from you. So it's always good to have a list of potential clients because sometimes people like have great materials, they have amazing presentations that they can share with the potential clients, but they don't have the potential clients on their list. So it gets really hard, because on one hand side you are really trying your best to convey your message, but on the other side, you're just not reaching enough people. You're not reaching enough partners. And then also the last point, but actually that's the first point, you should think about the budget and you should think about the timeline. So you don't want to delay this. You don't want to reach the clients for like 30 months or something like that. You don't want like a very long plan, and you also don't want to have a situation where your budget is too low. So you need to assess your needs at the beginning of it and set up a good budget for marketing. So I think that would be mostly about it, but then I also wanted to cover a bit of this that I mentioned earlier with the clients and suppliers. So let's say you have a great presentation, you really perfected your pitch, and you really want to get started with selling. That's the point where you need the client and suppliers lists, which is something that we provide as a service. That would be, for example, mostly about 100 to 200 contacts of people that would be interested in something like this. And here's a sample of it. So you would have the company name, you would know who you're addressing, then you would know their address and location, obviously, just because you sometimes want to do a targeted campaign in a certain geography. And then you would know a bit about them, like how many employees they have, what's their revenue, because the approach would be different for the large companies than when you're addressing smaller ones. So it's good to know. And we would provide you with the primary contact and their title and their email. So basically, you wouldn't be just sending an email to a random, for example, secretary on the help desk, or someone who is really not positioned to listen to you talk about your business. You would be talking to someone who is directly making the decisions, which is really facilitating the process of getting the clients. So basically, that can also be the same with suppliers. Let's say you need to build something and you want to achieve a certain price. You know that for startups, sometimes we have like very technology-based products. And for those, pricing is so important. So you want to know, what kind of suppliers you can get that could provide the parts that would enable you to build something in a lower amount of money. So that would be basically about marketing. And I already touched upon the company presentation as well, which I find to be a part of your marketing. It would be sort of like, maybe we have a sample or not. I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah, we have a sample. So it's sort of like a presentation that you would use in order to get to your client. So you would really identify their pain points. You would identify, let's say this example, for example, you want to see what is it that they feel as the biggest pain. And then you want to list how you're going to address the problem that they're having. And you want to also determine what is the price that they would be paying for something like this, etc. So this is a presentation that you would be sending to your clients in order to get them to sign up for your products or services.
Let me share screen here for you, Dor.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and this is a great division that we sometimes mention as our maybe like newest division that we have, but it's certainly really performing, and that's Joorney Digital. We also do, like Marinella mentioned, websites, and even websites with e-commerce function. For example, if you want to sell online, that would be something that we could also be helping you with. And then we do all sorts of different presentations, videos, etc. All of these can help you in so many industries to get a good presence on digital channels, because today you really need to be out there. You need to be present. Everyone can, Google and see who you are. If they cannot find you online, usually that would be a bad sign for them.
Thank you, Dorothea. Yes, so we've covered financial services, marketing, our company presentation, and now let's talk a little bit about funding really quick. Matt, what elements will increase the startup's chance of getting funding, and how does Joorney usually help on this?
Sure, absolutely. There are a lot of elements that go into increasing a startup's chances of funding, as one can imagine. But just to quickly summarize these 3 points here, these 3 particular documents. Number one, it's critical, as I mentioned before, it's critical to have your numbers in order, not to proclaim that you can predict your startup's financial future to the T, but to show investors that you understand the levers in the venture to pull in order to achieve growth. Investors want to see the thinking behind the numbers, and a well put together financial model is really the best way to demonstrate this. For the business plan, you've got to be able to show investors that there's actually a business here and not just a hobby, that there are real problems in a particular space, and that you and your team are uniquely qualified to build the solution and operate the business around it. All of this must comprehensively be conveyed in the business plan. Lastly, the pitch deck. It's really the first chance to make a great impression, as it's the first document that investors see and determine if they are intrigued enough to want to learn more. Investors won't get a chance to speak to you. They won't get a chance to read the business plan. They won't be able to play around with the financial model if the deck is not 100% ready to go. So in summary, make sure that all 3 of these documents are ready for prime time in order to increase your chances of getting funded.
Thank you so much, Matt. And thank you both, Dorothea, Matt. If I were to be a startup applicant, I would definitely hire you guys, I need to say.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up the presentation here to go to our Q&A. A general advice, it's not good to wait for IRCC to request the progress. What we're talking about here is the steps that you should be taking, either on your own or getting support from a company like Joorney to help you with that preparation of those different documents. So let's go to the Q&A. We have some interesting questions. Let me grab a few. Okay, 1 second. We have a lot of them. So there's a question. Do we prepare the progress report even before IRCC asks? Can it be quarterly update report? Preparing your own progress report, you can do it whenever you want, right? If you have it updated every quarter, that would be a great idea. If you have it updated every 6 months, the important thing is that you don't only update the progress report itself, but actually the progress that is included within that report. So if you do have it very up to date, the chances are that if you do get a request from IRCC, you're going to be ready. Or if not, you're going to need to update it very slightly before responding, given the fact that there's a time limit. If a client uses Joorney, is there a risk that the response of many clients will have a similar format and raise questions at IRCC? So what we showed you today is a sample. So it's just like our pitch decks, right? Each and every one of them is different, despite the fact that they may have a similar structure. But the idea is that we tailor it to your progress, but try to include the most important aspects of progress within it. So the intention is that no 2 documents are going to be the same. So something similar happens with a business plan or with a pitch deck. The same is going to happen with a progress report. Isn't the progress shown very limited within the progress report? Shouldn't a company have done much more in 2 years? So again, what you saw is a sample, but if there has been a lot of progress, there are going to be attachments to that progress report. If you have an MVP, if you have your platform ready, if you have surveys, if you have market research, if you have incorporated the company, if you have filed a patent, so many things can happen in 2 years, but it's going to depend specifically on the startup itself. So, so yes, I mean, probably some of them should have done more in 2 years, but it's going to change. In each case, the progress report and the progress itself for each is going to be different. I don't know, Matt and Dorothea, if you have anything to add on that one.
Yeah, I was just going to say that sometimes the progress is slower than what you would expect because startups, they quickly learn that there's a lot to be done. So, for example, sometimes you think that the development of the product will go smooth, but then you encounter issues and you need to overcome them. And the government knows about this. It takes so much time for a startup to get from 0 to 100. It's not just getting up and doing the product in 3 months and then going to the market and becoming a successful companies. Many startups operate with a loss for at least 2 or 3 years. We've seen those things. And like Marianela said, it's not about success, it's about progress. So you're testing different things and seeing if they work. And I also even saw people who pivoted from the original idea, which is also something that the government would understand. Let's say, for example, you wanted to develop a product, then you did all of those things that we mentioned and determined that your idea was not really realistic. Maybe it should be refined in a way that it includes different features that the clients are expecting or something like that. And all of that is delaying the success. It delays the process of developing the full solution and getting to the market.
Thank you, Dorothea. There's another question. It says, will Joorney do formal documentation of what the startup has done themselves, or will Joorney do primary original work as well? So as we were mentioning, within our price list, we have different services that we do ourselves. So it's going to be original work that we will help you build to show progress. And then, of course, if there is documentation on your end that shows progress, we're going to be gathering that in order to update that within the progress report. Thank you for that question. There's another question from Manish Paul. Do you have any partners who could do the jobs that are excluded from your price plan? Yes, we do. And you can reach out to us. I think the team has shared our information on the chat. So you can reach out to us, tell us what your needs are. And if we don't do some of the services that we added as not included, we do have some partners that can do that for you as well. And as I mentioned, there are some partners that can also do some items that constitute progress on a shorter time frame for those people who need to do way more than the progress report in 7 days. Okay. Please explain MVP. I don't know if Dora or Matt who wants to take this one.
Ladies first.
Okay. So I was just going to say that that's a minimum viable product. And for example, when you look at the products in the market, they have like this great packaging, they have bells and whistles, it's really nice. But you don't need all of that to see if the product actually works. So minimum viable product is something that you need to develop at a very minimum in order to test if the solution actually works. And then based on that, and later in the stages, you can add additional characteristics, you can add different customization options, you can add all of those nice things. But this is something that really shows product works. And then after that, you can play with it to get it to be more attractive.
Thank you, Dora. Okay, I have some questions here that are more along the lines of legal advice. So I would encourage that you can reach out to us and we'll connect you with an immigration lawyer or an immigration consultant that can help you. Yeah, somebody was asking that the work visas are still not approved, so it limits for some progress to be made. So that's a little bit along the lines of more immigration and extending work permits and such. That's going to be more on the legal side. Let me check. MVP. Okay, these I already covered. How is it decided if a product or service is innovative? That's a good question. That's usually one of the roles also of the designated organizations and also immigration professionals that can evaluate as something as unique. And that's also part of what we argument within the business plan when they come to us in order to show that towards the designated organization. It's a fine line, I would say, because some of the times we believe that innovative may be only technology, but it's not necessarily true. Innovative can be a new feature, can be a new unaddressed target market. It can be a specific knowledge that's being transferred from another country that is not used in Canada in a particular field. So there's a lot that can be innovative for sure. Okay, what is included in the marketing service that you have in your startup visa progress menu? So we were mentioning a few of these websites. We do websites with e-commerce feature. We do company presentations. We also do content. We do marketing plans. What am I missing, Dora?
For marketing.
But it's nice. I mean, the discovery call is crucial. Go ahead, Dora.
Yeah, I was just going to list a couple of things for the marketing part of it. So it would be some kind of a research first to determine like maybe their target groups. Then we could also do those websites you mentioned, then the corporate presentation that would show the company in the best light. Social media posts. We sometimes do content as well. I think that would be, yeah.
Nice. I have a question here for Matt. What should a client provide to your team to prepare a financial model? That's a good question.
It is a good question. It depends on what you have. So the more assumptions and hard numbers and pricing and things like that. Operating expenses are a key thing. Are you paying rent somewhere? How much are you paying people? So a lot of those things you're going to know. The more things we have, the easier it is for us. The lower the prices when we engage with a client, and then vice versa. The less there is, the more research that we have to look for to really populate those assumptions in a conservative yet attractive way to produce a strong investment case. So that's kind of the philosophy when we do financial modeling. Do a conservatively put together financial model while still providing a strong investment case. So, it really varies. I mean, we've had clients in the past that I really don't know anything. And sometimes they're really too early, to be honest. They've got to do some homework to at least get some of the basics of the operating expenses, the payroll, who's going to be hired, what does pricing look like, in order for us to kind of do our thing. So a basic amount. And then we work with folks that really have almost everything put together. They even have a working model already put together, but maybe they just need valuation, or maybe they only have a pro forma, but need the balance sheet, the cash flow statement as well. Maybe they need to see the evolution of fundraising through different fundraising rounds in a capitalization table, a cap table. So modeling is a very bespoke, customized thing. And again, just to your question, we can start quite early, not extremely early. If there's nothing there, it's going to be too early for us. But just kind of the basics there, all the way through to somebody already having populated a lot of the assumptions already.
Thank you, Matt. We have some question about the client list, but you can reach out to us and we can talk further about the details of that service. One of the questions is, can I work at a co-working space who offers lease documents? I mean, these questions would be more specific. Of course, some designated organizations also offer office space. So, I mean, these are more specific details. If there are 2 or 3 year periods between the PR application and the IRCC interview, how can SUV holders continue from abroad? So most of the services that we spoke about today, I mean, those are done by us, and you don't have to be necessarily in Canada to conduct that through us. So it's also a way to show progress despite not necessarily being in Canada. So I mean, that can be part of what you do within those 2 or 3 years. Of course, the timelines, the fact that you come to Canada or not at a specific time, I mean, I would encourage that you speak to your immigration consultant and lawyer for more details. It says average time from day one of startup visa to get the PR is how much nowadays? That's difficult to say because it's very varied and very random sometimes. So for some people, it may happen very fast, and for some people, it's taking more than 3 years. And of course, there in the Canadian immigration website, you can also see estimated timeframes. This is so nice. A little message. We have hired Joorney for business plans and market research. We are a small business. After seeing this presentation, I think we will need to hire you for more services. Is it possible to get a package price if we add more services step by step? Thank you so much, Jesus. So yes, definitely you can. We have, I mean, everything that we have spoken about today are services that we have also for companies that are not necessarily in the immigration process. Basically, we've added it to the startup visa services that we offer, but it's something that we've been doing for years, and we definitely have package pricing. And thank you for that note, Jesus. And I think we'll end with that very positive note from our current client, Jesus. Let me see. 12:17. Thank you, everybody. So any closing remarks, Matt?
No, I had fun, especially talking about financial modeling. I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did and found it very informative. Of course, if you need any help, feel free to reach out to any of us, and we would be more than happy to help you out, to listen to what you're building, to listen about your clients and what we can do to help them show progress for this very important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Dora?
I actually agree with Matt. It has been a pleasure today to talk to you about the products that we offer. And I think it's always the best to start the cooperation with a good talk. And I do expect to be able to talk to some clients through their kind of roadmap and see where we can really help, because every case is considered unique in our company.
Thank you so much, Dorothea. Yes, so a final note. So immigration is not expecting success, it's expecting progress. We understand that building and advancing in that progress is not an easy task. So as you know, Joorney has been helping with the business plan, and now with this startup visa progress menu, we're here to support you with way more. And this does not mean that we're going to do the startup for you. I mean, it's still your startup. We're here to support you. We're here to work as your back office team. If you're an immigration lawyer, if you're an immigration consultant, if you're a startup visa applicant, We're here to support you after the letter of support, because that's basically when things only are getting started. So reach out to us. Thank you, everyone who attended today and registered, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Dora. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.